It is nearing the end of the month here at Tech Yes City, and that can only mean one thing, and that is used PC parts and getting the best deals on those. And something that's a little bit funny, with all these new product launches, you guys have been hanging out in the comments saying you can't wait to see the used PC parts hunt of the month. And if you guys are hanging out for it, then I'm gonna go the extra mile this month and find whatever deals I can get and get as much as I can. So let's get on good old Gamtre and Facebook Marketplace. And one thing in particular that I definitely need is Gravis cards. I am so hungry for them right now. And of course, there's still that trend coming through, but we're gonna see if we can muster up some deals, get those used PC parts hunting capes on, and let's go for a ride. And straight away, starting off with Gumtree, going through, we actually found quite a few deals here, where the first was a 1050 Ti, and we dropped in an offer of 140 Aussie dollars. It's the 4GB edition. Graphics cards are still a little bit overpriced, so I think if I can get this for this money, it's decent. Just like this next deal here, which is a GTX 1050 2GB, I offered 100 Aussie even, since it's only the 2GB edition, and they already came back and said, no thanks, so we'll keep moving on from that. Even though it's just a $20 difference, it's all about that continual discipline here when it comes to use PC parts and getting the right deals. Next up is an RTX 2060 Super. We've offered 580 Aussie dollars. They're saying it's like brand new, so if we can pick that up, we're gonna shave off some money, especially compared to a price of a new GPU. And then moving on here, we got a 1660 tough gaming GPU. I offered 250 Aussie dollars, so waiting for them to get back to us. Then there's a 660 Ti. We offered 60 Aussie dollars. Still waiting on that, just like a GTX 760 here, which we've offered 60 Aussie dollars down on to. And then after that is an RX 570. I've put down an offer of 120 Aussie, followed by a offer of someone to post me an RX 580 8GB for 200 Aussie posted. And by the way, I'm talking in Aussie dollars, so the current exchange rate, I'll put that up on the screen for you because the Aussie dollar is weaker than the United States dollar, just so you guys can get some rough prices of pretty much worldwide of what I'm offering on these GPUs here. Then we had a 7770 where they just listed it for 70 Aussie dollars, but I put in an offer of 30 because that's really all a 7770 is worth, with 1GB of VRAM being this old. They came back and said 50 Aussie dollars, so I'm just gonna let that one sit. And then after that is an R9 270, which I put down. It's a 2GB edition, so it's a decent card. Still for 1080p, say medium and low gaming. I put down an offer of 60, and they came back and said they need the cash. They want 85 Aussie. So I'm just like, well, we'll let that one sit. And then after that, we've got an i7 3770 combo, and they're saying that someone else is coming to pick it up. I offered 130 Aussie dollars. They reckon the board's possibly faulty, but it does come with a Hyper 212 and 2133 megahertz memory, which is some pretty good stuff. And the i7 3770, not too shabby if you're into flipping PCs. And then the next one there is a GTX 970 4GB. They're asking 250 Aussie. I just said 150 Aussie because pretty much that's what I'm paying for in this current climate, even though before that I was getting GTX 970s from like 100 to 120. Then the last deal here is the most interesting for me personally because I messaged them. It's a GTX 645, very similar to a GTX 650. Now, these are great little cards for 720p gaming, which I've been putting a few systems together lately on the low end because I just enjoy putting together PCs on pretty much any budget. I really love it. And the GTX 650 and the 645, it's really an unknown card. So I put down an offer of about 20 bucks. They came back and they said they had like 7 of these and they want around $27 for them a pop. So I'm like, look, I'll just take the lot. And so I'm gonna go up and see them. And they've also got some more parts there that they said I might be interested in. So this is definitely looking really good already. But when it comes to Facebook Marketplace, we're gonna move over to that now. And there's someone with a streaming PC where they wanted $400 for this PC, and I offered $300. They came back and said, look man, I want $350. I said, sorry bro, on a tight budget, I've only got $300, and they said, sure, come pick it up. So it's got a 3000G in it, but we've also got an AMD A320 motherboard, 8GB of DDR4, K's power supply, RX 570, and a 2TB hard drive. So it's pretty fair value in that I can just pretty much change the CPU over for say a 1600 AF, put an SSD in this thing, and we've got a pretty capable gaming PC on a decent budget. And then the last deal that we managed to look up here is an FX 6300, 8 gigabytes of RAM, cooler and motherboard combo. They wanted 100. I dropped in an offer of 80 Aussie dollars and they said yes. So we're gonna go pick that up a little bit later too. But in the meantime, we might give Les a call and see if we can pop in before it gets dark. Basically, that's the cue to hit the Yes-mobile.
How is my brother from the same prehistoric mother? Hey,
don't tell me you're coming here.
well, that's what I was saying. Would you be keen for a little pop in from a late night visit? Well, not a late night. We're talking maybe 5:20. I'll be there. No later.
You get here by 5:15, come on, boys, don't come.
Yeah, I'll get there just by that time, like just, man. So, you know, just be a little bit lenient toward me.
Yeah, alright.
All right. All right, Les, I'll see you.
Okay.
All right, see you soon. All right, bye.
Bye.
So it's a little bit weird right now, but it's winter, so it's getting dark really early. And basically off Les, we got a GTX 960 4 gigabyte edition. We paid 110 Aussie, so it's pushing the boundaries. And you know, Les is pretty strict on his prices and he knows his limits. And I couldn't really budge him down anymore. But we also got a 1241 V3 Xeon, equivalent to an i7 4770, and 8 gig of RAM hard drive for 150 and a whole pre-built. And we also got another pre-built with an SSD 1 terabyte hard drive, 12 gig of RAM, an X58 i7 power supply case for 152. So we picked up some decent deals there. Again, not the best, but I'm keen to pick up stuff now because the studio is freeing up a bit. And after that, he also had 16 gigabytes of RAM. He did that for 50 bucks. And he also did his 3 1 terabyte hard drives as well as 3 500 gigabyte hard drives for a pretty good price. But right now we're in a bit of a hurry because we're gonna go pick up this streaming PC that I put the offer down on $300 for. So they've accepted, but I wanna sort of start getting these deals before it gets too late. So let's continue the show. So we now just picked up the $300 streaming PC that they were advertising, and it was actually a really sad story that it's so disgusting that, I mean, I'll talk about it when we get back to the studio because we quickly got to get some of these other deals around here, but I have not heard anything like this the whole time I've been dealing with PCs. This is really like insane. Anyway, let's keep moving because it is getting late. So we just finished up picking up a GTX 1080 and that was just around the corner, and I picked this up for 420 Aussie dollars, so not a bad deal. And this is the third graphics card now I've bought off someone who I'd now consider a friend. I've recently become acquainted with them. They sold me a 1060 in the past and also an RTX 2060. And the first time they posted a 1060 down, because we are about, I'd say, 80-minute drive from the Gold Coast. And the second time I met up with them, I was doing the Potato Hunter series actually, but I kind of left that graphics card to the side as it wasn't a potato whatsoever. But anyway, we just quickly stopped off here to get a feed. Really hungry on the road, but we're now going to go pick up these GTX 645s, which we're getting for around 25 Aussie dollars a pop. So we're going to go get those and also negotiate on the spot on the other stuff that they've apparently got, a Z420 and stuff like that. So we just finished up picking up the 7 GTX 645s, and while we were there, they also had two FX 8150s and an FX 970 and a 990 motherboard, and they didn't have IO shields. And I said, look, would you take 140 for these two boards and the cooler and the CPUs? And he said yes. So he did us that. He also had a 1650 workstation Z420, but he wanted too much for it, and the actual water cooler on it wasn't working properly, so I wasn't ready to take a gamble for 230 bucks on that, considering it did have 32 gigabytes of RAM, but it was ECC registered, and I've already got a heap of that stuff at my studio anyway, and I can get it for really cheap. So I did pass on that deal, but let's get back to the Gold Coast now. We've got to pick up the final deal, and that is for this FX combo with an FX 6300, 8 gig of RAM, motherboard, and cooler. So seems like this month there's a lot of old bulldozer and stuff coming through, FX chips, but hey, we can turn those into gaming PCs with these recently acquired GTX 645s. Little budget bangers. And now it's pretty late at night, but I'm finally back at the Tech Yes studio, and this last deal for the FX 6300 ended up just being a cool story. So we've got a lot of stories to talk about, which I'm going to talk about the really bad one tomorrow morning when I wake up. But this one right here was, I bought a PC off this guy over 2 years ago, I think, and I made the CSGO Potato Part 2 with that PC. And he remembered me, and he's just appreciative of getting him into the used hustle after that. So he just gave me these two motherboards. I was like, thanks a lot, man. He just gave me a beer and we had a chat. And it's just so cool to see people are doing really well out of used hustle. And more so, they appreciate it. I mean, you guys are absolutely awesome. That's what I'm gonna say. And I offered, like I said, man, I'll give you money for this stuff. He's like, no, just take it, really, take it. I was like, it's so awesome. Like, that is the wholesomest thing you can do for Tech Yes Cities is just give us some PC parts. But besides that, we'll take a look at all this haul right here, because as I said earlier, it is pretty late at night and I am really tired. I've had a crazy busy day. I was reviewing some of these motherboards, which we're still getting through with the Z490 stuff. And Les also taught us a new trick though, with these monitor stands. And this is the thing with PC parts, like guys, as much as I show what I'm doing on the channel here, I learn a lot of stuff from other people as well. So Les taught us with the spanner trick on these Dell monitors. Just quickly put a spanner on the end and you can quickly and easily take off those clips with ease. Like, you don't need pliers or anything like that, and it's not tedious at all. And I was like, wow, that's such a cool trick, because now when I silicon a standless monitor to the back of these, it's going to be completely flat after I take these little plates out with screws. So, and these stands are actually really nice too. So Les was like, he was super excited to give us some stands this time for monitors, and I was like, why is that? And he just had like 20 of them or so, and I was like, all right, cool, man, yeah. Like, I'll take some monitor stands. I always love a good monitor stand. So yeah. Also, this one's got like CX engraved in it, and I thought wasn't that the code for the streamer guy, the Ice Poseidon guy? Like, man, someone engraved that in the back of their monitor stand. That's like the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And so here we are now the next morning, and this story of what happened with this streaming PC that I picked up off Facebook was that the guy bought two PCs off someone. And obviously, I mean, if you guys want to see a video about this too, then I'll make one, but I have to get both sides of the story first and all that and do a lot more digging. But from what I was told last night was this person bought a PC, or two PCs with monitors and everything, for like $3,700. It was like two full setups. And the biggest problem was when he got the PCs, both of them didn't turn on. And so what he did was went to a local tech guy, and they pulled apart both the PCs, and both the motherboards had bent pins on them. So, and these were a lot of bent pins. There's no way both these PCs would work normally. And so if that's true, right? If that's true, then the person who sold that is just, I've never heard of someone deliberately hosing someone like that for that kind of money. And furthermore, he's telling me like the cables were just all over the place in one of the rigs. The GPU was apparently zip tied to the socket, didn't even have a back plate on it, and he had to then, the guy at the PC shop, fix that for him. And so what he did, this was the other PC where he took the motherboard out, he put another motherboard in, and he just ended up really just wasn't able to do what he wanted it to do. And I guess that's because it's got a single 8GB DDR4 stick of memory and a 3000G. And I mean, that's not gonna do much at all. Even though the RX 470 or 570 that's got in there is reasonably powerful. So I heard about this story, I was like, wow, like who would do that? You know, it's one of the dirtiest hosing jobs, if it's true, that I've ever heard of. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna contact the other party involved and just see what their side of the story is. But it just, I mean, and I told the guy, I said to the guy straight away, I said, this is a big reason too why I always tell people to buy local if they can. Like for instance, if someone buys a PC off me, I take them through the PC before I sell it. I'm like, hey dude, here it is running a benchmark. Here's all the system specs. Here's the GPU, everything like that. I even do a cold boot in front of them just to show them, like simulate what it's gonna be like when they get the PC home and plug it all up. So that's one thing you always should be checking for yourself too. If you go buy a PC, like I would recommend, especially if you're spending big money, don't buy it posted to your door from someone you've never met or someone who's got no or little feedback or something like that. So this is the worst story I've heard by far. 3,700 Aussie dollars is a lot to pay for two PCs that just don't work and they don't turn on. And so the specs in them originally, I think one of them had like an i7-6700 and the other, I mean, they came with monitors, keyboards, you know, RGB keyboards and all that stuff. But I mean, it's just like, wow, what is this? Like, I don't know. There's a lot more. I think there's a lot more to this story. I'm gonna really start digging deep because, yeah, I don't know. Let us know in the comment section below too what you guys think of this, but also what in terms of if you're in your local area, what have you heard of some of the worst sort of hosing jobs that have happened? And so I also know of someone who contacted me in Melbourne where someone sold them a graphics card and met them at like a service station, and they had the box for that graphics card, but inside there was like a real potato GPU. So yeah, always just, guys, I'm gonna like say this again, check your stuff. If you're buying these used PC parts, check. Like it's different with Les, right? Like say for instance, Les, I deal with him a lot. I know Les, he's not gonna hose me. And even if something happened where there was a faulty part, I just call Les up, he'd like, bring it back. And I'll change it over, I'll give you a refund. And so that's different. And so when you're buying for the first time, just be really careful. Though, with that aside, let's check out these three PCs that we've got here, and also we'll tally up so far what we've got and see who's got back to us with these graphics cards and stuff, because the haul so far has been absolutely amazing, that's for sure. So now here's the three PCs here, and you'll probably notice something on the channel lately, and that is as the cases are coming out of stock and all this other stuff that's going on right now with these crazy conditions and times, you'll notice that we went through, like, I personally went through the RGB era where everything had RGB lights on it and whatnot. And this PC here is going to start signifying a new era for me, and that is the weasal era. And so what I mean by that is, since this has got a 120GB SSD in it, 1TB hard drive, that is kind of like, it's still first gen, right? So we're going to take those two components out. We're going to put in a 500GB hard drive, leave the 12GB of RAM in there, take out this GTX 285, and then put in something a bit better. So maybe a GTX 6 series card or something. And then we can put a monitor, keyboard, mouse in it. Be a great little starter gaming PC. So just microing what we've got. But this PC here was 150 Aussie dollars. And again, for the specs, it's pretty good. Like, it's a pretty decent buy. All I have to do is take this, like, three things out here, then put in a better graphics card. And as I said before, change that hard drive. And we've got a decent gaming PC on our hands. Another thing is too that it's got two Blu-ray disc rewriters in it. So I might change those over for just standard DVD drives because, like, again, I want the aesthetics to look pretty good on this case, but Blu-ray disc rewriters, I know they're not cheap, like, by any means. So that's pretty cool that it came with two of those. So now here this PC is. We've got a 20cm, looks like it's a green LED fan at the front. We've got 12cm green LED fan at the back. and it's got a Cobra power supply, which I've never seen this power supply before. So I got to admit, the sticker does look kind of cool, but in terms of the specs and the brand itself, I'm not too sure. It doesn't look too half bad. Like, it looked like it'll power this build absolutely fine though. This thing was labeled as a streaming PC, and I mean, with a 3000G and 8GB stick of RAM, single stick, it'll do a few things, but streaming is definitely not one of them. So what we're gonna do from here on in is probably change out that 3000G for something like a 1600 AF, change out the RX 470, maybe like a 1660 Super, add another stick of RAM, and then an SSD, and we've got ourselves a proper gaming PC that we can, turn around. So there's that PC there. Obviously needs some tech. Yes, got a bit of dust on it and stuff like that, but I mean, for what the tech guy did in the guy's area, he didn't do too bad of a job of fixing this thing and piecing it back together to a working PC. And now here's the last PC that we got. This was from Les. This was the T1700 Dell Precision, 8GB of RAM. He did chuck in a hard drive with this one, 500GB, and we also got a 1241 V3 Xeon. So similar to like an i7 4770, as we said before, but we just got to take out this GPU. Now, the thing about this Precision here is there's no real, like, you'll be able to use like a single 6-pin PCIe adapter for it easy, but I think something like with like a 1650 would go well coupled with this build. So I'll see what I can do in terms of spicing this up a little bit, or should I say the new meta of using the term sprucing it up. We're gonna spruce this thing up and make it look, well, actually we can't really make it look that good, but we can sort of make the spec sheet look pretty good. But I'd say for 150 Aussie dollars, it's not too shabby either. And then the last part of this deal involves us getting some hard drives. We got some RAM as well from Les. There was some RAM thrown in with that last deal that we dropped off to, where the guy gave us the 2 motherboards and the 2 FX 6 cores, and he also gave us a little bit of extra DDR3 as well. So that was much more than I expected, so that was awesome. I mean, but coming out of that, even in this own video itself, you can see that for every down, there will be an up. So you just got to stay focused, stay positive. That's one of the biggest messages of tech. Yes, City, but we got graphics cards. We got quite a few of them. We got the 7 GTX 645s. That's definitely going to be the sort of like potato buffer. So when I'm putting together, when people just like, Brian, I want a really cheap PC, that's going to be the graphics card that will supplement that. And then we got the GTX 1080. That's checking out absolutely fine. That GTX 960, 4GB. And all the deals we've got, I'll put that up on the screen for you guys, but off the top of my head, it's looking at around about 1,730 Aussie dollars. And we've got a heap of good stuff here. This is a real sort of wholesome goodness month. And also Les did throw in some mice as well and 4 monitor stands. So that was always a really cool little bonus. I always like getting a little bit of a bonus if you can. But do let us know in the comments what's your favorite deal going forward with this parts hunt so far. With that said, we're going to go back to Gumtree now and see if we got some of those replies from those other GPU offers that we put in, but also see if there's any more GPUs up for sale, because that is the one thing that I'm looking for right now. So finished up having a look around, and first thing I found was Umart having finally SSD prices have come down. So I went and bought 10 120GB SSDs. They used to be like around 50 Aussie dollars a pop. Now they've come down to like 36. So that's really good to see that coming down and that being alleviated. But on the other side, there's also GPUs and it's hard to get them. So what I did here was look around and I found on eBay, like, guys, this is gonna be an amazing deal, right? GTX 1070 over $1,000 a pop. Like, yeah, I'm so keen to buy that one. But honestly, looking through the rest of these graphics cards, it's just like there's these overpriced GPUs that just sit on the market, and I've seen them up there for weeks now. And sort of any good price on a GPU, I think at the moment, any reasonably decent price on a GPU, it gets snagged up straight away. Like someone's already on that. And so I do have, like, there are some people out there now that do keep a lookout for GPU deals for us. But even then, I think last night, I think there was like a 2070 Super that came up for 600 Aussie dollars and it got snapped up in 2 minutes. That's from what I was told. So you can see how it's pretty there's a lot of people out there that are hungry for deals at the moment. So you've got to be on the ball. You've got to be really quick to get any sort of deal at the moment. And yeah, that's just what it is. Like looking around, I just couldn't find any good deals. eBay did have this sale where if you use like Afterpay or something like that, you could get 10% off. But I checked that this morning and it was sad because there wasn't really any good GPU deals around. But after that, I tried to get these 1650s and the deal had just run out. So that would have been decent if I had got that, because I could have got 1650s for around close to $200, I think. So, but with the 10% discount going off, it's really not worth it. So yeah, just on the lookout now for GPUs, and I'm gonna stay on the lookout. But in terms of people yesterday getting back to me, that didn't happen, except for one person with a GTX 764 gigabyte. And they came in at 70 Aussie dollars. I offered 60, and they said, let's meet in the middle. And I'm like, yeah, you know what, 70 Aussie dollars for a 4 gigabyte 760 is sort of like my maximum. I will go there. But the problem is they messaged me when I got back to the Gold Coast, pretty much. And they were back like the area that we left last night, they were right around there. So it was just a matter of them replying too slow, because I'm not going back and doing like a 70-minute drive just for a GTX 760 now. So I did reply and asked them if they could post it down to me. I mean, hopefully they can just do it for like $8 or something postage. And yeah, maybe we'll get a little discount, who knows. But anyhow, with that aside, I hope you guys enjoyed this used PC parts hunt of the month. Unfortunately, it's come to like just a real abrupt dry end, where I've just checked out all these deals and yeah, just nothing now. Like there is no good deals. I think we just swept up the market yesterday and just got everything we could. Though those SSDs, again, I'm still pretty happy about that, because that's one thing I desperately needed. Power supplies, I have been juggling, like I said earlier before, weasal method, weasel theory, that's coming in. You got to be able to weasel your way and just pick out the good parts, sort of mix and match. Don't be afraid to juggle office PCs too, especially if they've got good power supplies in them. Take out the good power supply, put in an office power supply, no GPU, etc. You can just weasel your way out. Don't be afraid to weasel. That's, I guess, going into this month, that's what it's all about. But if you guys enjoyed today's used PC parts hunt of the month, please be sure to hit that like button for us, but also let us know in the comments section below what was your favorite deal. Always love reading your thoughts and opinions, as always, just like this question of the day here, which come from Sullied Saint, and they ask, can someone explain the logic that allows a 450 watt power supply to run a PC that includes a 3950X, 2080 Ti, fans, drives, RAM, etc.? And it's pretty simple. Like in that, the 450 watt power supply that we featured in that video, put the link up to the video up here, that was a really good 450 watt power supply, at least both for the money and in terms of what its rating truly is. So you're getting all that 450 watts on the 12 volt line, which is the most important when you're running your graphics card and things like your CPU. That's where you want your power to be getting delivered at that rating. And so in this case, we weren't overclocking the 3950X, we weren't overclocking the 2080 Ti. So we were still able to come in with that power supply and it worked absolutely fine. So there's a kind of logic behind that. A lot of the times, and this is a common thing, a lot of people do overbuy power supplies. Like I've seen people buying 1000 watt power supplies and coupling them with like 1660 supers, and you're just really wasting your money at that point. Like I think if you're gonna go with the power supply for generally a single GPU, single CPU, a really solid 650 watt power supply has always been my recommendation, and going forward it will be my recommendation, where that's sort of like, for me, that personally, that's your sweet spot in terms of it's gonna last you a while. If you get a really good one, you can just keep upgrading and using that same power supply for years and years to come. Anyway, hope that answers that question, and I'll catch you guys in another tech video very soon. Peace out for now. Bye.